All right, top of the morning to you, and glad to have you join us on your highly conversational show Frontline, where we take our time to clarify issues of public interest across the socio-economic and political spectrum. Well, this time around, we are looking at the Startup Act 2022 and its efficacy. And to help make sense of the conversation this morning, we have joining us virtually from the UK, Vincent Okeke. He is an IT expert and founder of Dovilen. He has been involved in notable online education projects, including helping many Nigerians attain high quality digital skill. Vincent Okeke, good morning to you and glad to have you join us on Frontline this morning.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It's a great opportunity and a privilege to be here.
All right, let's begin from your understanding of the Startup Act itself before we talk about the efficacy. Can you please bring us up to speed, with what you understand with the Nigerian Startup Act 2022?
Okay, so the Nigerian Startup Act 2022 is a law designed to create an enabling environment for startup businesses, for startups in Nigeria. So it's sort of what provides a guideline to coordinate the activities of startup businesses and or startups generally in Nigeria. However, in the context of the Startup Act, startup according to the Act refers to based on what is classified as a startup, is businesses that are less than 10 years old, as its primary delivery tool or product uses technology, and it's also registered in Nigeria. I believe the government came up with these acts to provide, in a way, because many of these startups have been operating without, there's no proper data on what the startups are doing, their challenges, their operations, their sectors as well. So this act is sort of understand, providing guidelines and bringing them closer to the government in a way that they can gain support they need to operate more efficiently. Thank you.
Well, some have said, is it just about the federal government providing enabling environment for startup, or is it about the government is now saying what startup are getting eventually when they are being bought by bigger companies and they are looking at the way of also catching out from it? Or is it about truly the government is sincere about encouraging startups?
So I think this is more of a mutual benefit for the startup and for the startup and the government itself. From many data or expert reports out there, it is commonly argued that about 90% of the time a startup can potentially die off or close its door. But when they get the sort of support they need from government, the sort of exposure, why there also remember that there are a lot of there are different government arms that are actively promoting investment in Nigeria, promoting exports into Nigeria, promoting trade collaborations. NITDA is also including access to government agencies as well, being able to make some of the products or services of these startups available to the government agencies as well. So this act sits basically on four pillars. One is to first of all identify who the startups, who they are, what they are doing, and also be able to provide them things like tax incentives and support that can help them succeed and thrive in whatever they are doing. And beyond that, provide.
Okay, go on.
Okay,
Vincent.
I said beyond that, provide regulatory support on the ease of doing businesses and as well talent development, skill training and all of that. Eventually, the idea is that if the startups are able to go through these four pillars and become more solid or grounded in what they do, they get the necessary validation they need in terms of being able to become attractive to foreign businesses and so if you have a business, Mr. Kunle, and government can give you the validation, make you more visible, give you human capital development, access to funding, and whatever it is, and you become more viable for investment, and international investors can potentially identify your business and
Okay.
invest in it. Of course, if the government wants to, for that, the government can at that point benefit from you, maybe from taxes and other things, even you employing more people in the labor force and so on.
Okay. Yeah,
Thank you.
I do appreciate your point on that. And that will prompt me to ask you this. Looking at the key provisions of this act itself, I know you've been able to touch on it in your answer to my previous question, but I would like you to, share with me the key provisions of this act and the implications for the digital technology businesses.
Okay. So the key provision for the act is one is first of all to be able to provide them, let them what is called label certification. Sort of, okay, we recognize you, you're a startup in Nigeria. You now have to register in the startup and engagement portal, which is, I think, startup.gov.ng. You go through a registration process. The government identifies you. They give you sort of certification to show that, okay, you're a startup. You're now established. You have your startup number and things like that. So whatever business that want to transact with you at that point knows that, okay, the government knows you. And of course, you understand you probably will have an idea of what this sort of registration could be. The key people driving the startup are known by the government. They are in contact with some of these agencies and so on. Another one is to, reduce some of the tax, to provide tax incentive and funding support. That the businesses, this startup may need. Tax has been, of course, a major barrier, and for businesses, and we could see a lot of incentives happening during the Muhammadu Buhari regime in terms of new businesses getting incentives in Nigeria, which a lot of business owners should be aware of and take, of course, advantage of. And there are also a lot of funding support, Kunle. A lot of funding support are going through ministries like the Ministry of Finance. Another one is the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Fund. For instance, my business in Nigeria, the Victory Worldwide, we have our office at a facility that is supported or supported by the BOI, Bank of Industry. So these sort of provisions are available for businesses to take advantage of them. And I'm talking about a very cozy office environment with a lot of facilities to support us that are heavily subsidized by the Bank of Industry. So a lot of these provisions, when startups become more informed and actively engaged, they can avail themselves to funding opportunities, even beyond tax incentives that are available,
All right. All right.
and including collaboration the government have with venture capitalists.
Apologies to both in place, Vincent, but this is coming at a point whereby this administration is currently at its twilight, because come 2023, there will be an election and a new government will be in place. And oftentimes, governments often jettison, ideas or stuff, that the previous governments have one way or the other implemented, or the art might be there, but there might not be the political will, to continue with it. How do we guide against such with this current administration?
So so that is actually one of the potential challenges that I was going to talk about in terms of implementation, foreseeable challenges, and so on. But the good thing is that Kule, this has been passed into this act, it is now a law in Nigeria. These establishments are
Well,
already.
it might become a law, and the commitment might not be there.
Yes, that is of course some of the challenges that that has been identified. However, the pattern this is being pursued by the government, there is already engagement between. It is different from many of those government projects. Kule. There's already we could see engagement between key some stakeholders that are notable stakeholders in the startup ecosystem in Nigeria, and some of the frontiers or the key drivers of these startup app projects already engaging and trying to, it is not just now the government doing its thing, but they are collaborating and trying to design a framework or a system that can support many digital businesses. So could you think about it? Imagine, for instance, there's already the startup. They already have partnership with the Ministry of Trade and Commerce and things like that. So imagine that a person, or for instance, a shoemaker in Aba, gets clarity and understanding on the opportunities to export their business, whatever their products, to market in Africa through partnership with Ministry of Trade, Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment. They get clear direction on what they can do, what sort of export licenses they need, even helping them get necessary license in the third party country on how they can export. So this opens wide door of opportunities for digital businesses, and honestly, it is highly encouraged. But to address your question, the approach to this is not just a one-side thing. It is more of a mutual thing from stakeholders in the startup ecosystem coming in collaboration with government to say, what are your pain points? How can we support you? What do we need to do? How can we remove regulatory bottlenecks and all of that? Thank you.
All right. I do appreciate your view there, but let's also look at this misconception about this startup, because some have the opinion that, if you are not doing anything IT related, then forget about it. Does it include other businesses?
So, like I said earlier, while I was talking about this, startup generally in literal terms means a small business, few years of operation. It could be any kind of business. However, in the context of sorry, are you there?
Yes, go on, please.
Okay, sorry. In the context of this act, it defines the startup as business with less than 10 years of operation, and it must be a small business that is less than 10 years old and operates, basically uses technology as its primary delivery, or technology is the primary product. So if you watch the trend that is happening lately, with the explosive growth of artificial intelligence, you see that every business today is now driving into a full adoption, or even a partial adoption, maybe to say, but it's now driving into the space of the digital ecosystem. And this is sort of what this encourages as well. A very good, effective use of the IT tools and coming actively into the IT system. Look at it even from agricultural business. They can have a very good, they can adopt a digital model playbook where they can have their portal, their trade portal, and they can even have their distributors and listed on this portal, shopping for their produce, whatever they harvest. They can also, use this sort of platforms to distribute them and promote it as well, to create more visibility to their distributors and buyers or whatever, or even international collaborators. So the technology in trade has become a major thing, and it cuts across just businesses that are primarily in the IT sector. However, the Startup Act focuses at this phase, from my understanding, focuses at businesses that primarily uses technology. So technology businesses primarily uses technology for its to deliver its
technologically
product
driven businesses.
Exactly.
All right. Okay. This is Frontline on Eagle 102.5 FM, and we have been discussing with Vincent Okeke. He's an IT expert and a founder of Dovelen. He has been involved in notable online education projects, including helping many Nigerians to attain quality digital skill. Vincent Okeke, now let's talk about, the efficacy of this art itself, the startup art.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. So some of the things I would like to talk about is efficacy by highlighting the opportunities and the challenges.
Oh, that's fine.
Some of the things I'll first of all like to identify as these opportunities, it would be better funding access. Kule, you know that I'm sure you're aware that the government already have a lot of programs in place where it tries to attract international investors. There's already an organization like the NIPC in Abuja, that's National Investment Promotion Commission or thereabouts, that proactively promotes investment in Nigeria. So this startup becomes the front line of benefactors who can, or the frontliners of businesses that can actively benefit from some of these funding opportunities. As government reaches out to international investors to come and invest, of course, if the international investors say, okay, what database, what businesses can we explore? These startup are primarily the businesses that the government can present and say, hey, so this funding opportunity cuts across just government funding designated for startup. Of course, that one is there. I'm going to talk about it as well. But funding opportunities for from international investors, and then funding opportunities from the government itself. The government has a notable number of projects like the Nigerian Sovereign Investment Authority funds, fund programs run by the Bank of Industry. Like I mentioned, that I've also been a benefactor of one of these programs, and a notable number of them. Now, beyond that, there is also regulatory clarity on businesses. For instance, let's say the business wants to go into some sort of playbook or product that requires having your trademarks, IP protection, or any other sort of regulatory requirements from the government, or maybe for instance from NAFDAC. The startup, if you've been to, I had the opportunity to do my national youth service at the NIPC back then, and you see that they are more of the sort of investment stop shop where when you get there, you see almost all the government agencies where the seats, you see FIRS office, their decks. So when you go there, you can access all sort of government, almost all sort of government regulations that you need, and they can support you and help you, fast track and implement them. So there's regulatory clarity as well that comes as the opportunity. A lot of businesses today are not, probably not being regulatory compliant because of lack of information on how to go about this, high cost by consultants, charges in providing them this information and guidelines. But this startup, once they are registered with the Nigerian startup platform, they can easily access this sort of get this sort of regulatory clarity where they can go. So it's more like a free regulatory advice, which I encourage digital businesses to tap into and benefit from. Also, the tax incentives that the government provides for this startup also makes it attractive for investors that want to leverage this sort of opportunity. In the UK, for instance, we have this sort of provisions like what is known as the EIS sort of thing in the UK, and where the businesses that invest certain amounts, investors that invest certain amounts in the business can get sort of a significant amount of tax relief or sort of those kind of things. And also the idea is to encourage another opportunity is to encourage local innovation. I mentioned ABBA earlier. A lot of things are happening as well, even in Ondo states and different, most especially the rural part of Nigeria where that is not in the front capital line like Lagos and maybe Abuja and so on. A lot of innovations are happening in this place.
Okay.
People are producing very standard products, and this sort of encourage regulatory innovation, providing clarity for regulation and whatever, and information in terms of to enhance their business exploitations and so on, including funding support,
Okay.
which is local funding support coming from the government.
Wow.
However, some of the challenges, I'll just talk about this quickly because of time. Some of the challenges of what I would say are impediments, maybe could be, this sort of bureaucracy that is attached with the government. And I know that you asked this question earlier when I was talking about, you asked if it's not going to be the usual government thing. However, in this particular case, we are definitely expecting that from what we are seeing, some of the things that are already rolling out, stakeholders having key meetings with this the championers of this program, and we're already seeing more clarity, and we expect this to not be business as usual. The startup portal is already up. The registration process is already, their businesses can go there and begin their registration seamlessly, which I encourage startups in Nigeria to take advantage of, most especially those that are into digital businesses. Another thing I might just say, which I'm particularly not happy about, and I thank you guys for, bringing me on this show to talk about this. I'm sure that millions of Nigerians will be listening, or thousands, hundreds of thousands, whatever your reach are, and they can learn and benefit from this. It is the lack of awareness. I was expecting to see sort of key collaboration with major media stakeholders like your radio station. I was expecting to see some of these government agencies coming to your radio station to talk about this. It's not just going to be a one-time thing. Talking about it regularly, just like I'm doing, talking about the benefits so that people can come on board, more registration can happen.
That's why we have a platform like this to extra issues like this.
Exactly. See, this should be a frequent thing. This should be, because there is a lot of benefits available for these businesses. Funding support they are not aware of. Human capital development programs, training, and so on. There are a lot of government agencies that are collaborator with the ministry for this particular program. A lot of government agencies, a good number of them. So if they create the right awareness, more people will benefit. And I'll just articulate good kudos on the good job you guys are doing. I hope you also get more experts to talk about this, and let's keep sending the message across. Thank you very much.
All right, Vincent. Okay, it's always a live situation, but okay, that's fine now. Oh, I want to appreciate you indeed for your time with us on Frontline, Vincent. Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm more grateful.
All right. Well, we've talked about it. The Nigerian Startup Act 2022 and its efficacy. And Vincent Okeke, who is an IT expert and the founder of Dovelen, has been able to help put some insight on all of this. So it's about the people taking advantage of it. Well, let's cross over to the other segment of the show this morning. Thank you so much for listening. Let's have a time out.